and dancing, pumping your lap to make sure that you're in the top 15 at this stage, which is what it's all about. Don't try and do too much too soon, I'd say, on this medium tyre. That's what caught out both De Vries and Gasly yesterday.
Yeah, unusual to see those crashes early on yesterday. Gasly with mitigating circumstances, and we did hear Nick De Vries reporting an issue of brake-by-wire earlier.
Quite a big vibration on this set.
Copy that, we'll have a look.
Doesn't need a result. Fantastic flying lap yesterday from Lando Norris. He was disappointed not to be fourth on the grid for the Grand Prix.
A lot of drivers disappointed not to be fourth on the grid. I think that was the carrot out there because there was such a big gap between third and fourth. And Lando was one that thought he could maybe do it. The McLaren looks really good this weekend. Upgrades on it, and it looks like it's working well. Both Lando and Oscar Piastri were in Q3. And Aston Martin were the other team that really felt they had.
Okay, the steering is quite a lot bent, right hand side down.
Yeah, copy.
Come back quite a lot.
Straight, so they think that they can be challenging a bit higher up. It'll be interesting. The medium tyre, actually, whilst the warm-up will be a bit worse, the grip will be a bit lower, it's not a terrible tyre in terms of peak lap time, according to Pirelli's predictions. It's not that far away. Everyone will know a rough balance offset that you need to do. Probably trim a little bit of front wing out, as we've got, it looks like...
I think the vibrations coming from the brakes.
Turn 3, we'll check in on that at the moment. DRS is disabled in Zone 1, which is going to affect drivers going through that part of the racetrack. We're watching the British driver who found himself more competitive, although McLaren have a good record here so far in the last few years. They have had a strong record at this track, scoring points for both their cars at the last 4 back.
Everyone's getting on with it, so 3 cars still to go.
A multiple point turn in that runoff, didn't hit the wall at the same corner as De Vries and Gasly did, but that will of course have hampered everyone else that was trying to do a lap in that minute that it was yellow. Only 8 minutes left on the clock, and for some drivers that's going to be another lap down that they couldn't have pushed, and already start to get a little bit squeaky.
So you may be forced to run and run and run. Of course, you don't want to run too many laps of fuel because that adds weight to the car, that compromises your pace. So that calibration of how much fuel you put in the car, a consideration as well. Magnussen, Sargent, Lando Norris, Yuki Tsunoda, one of the stars of traditional qualifying yesterday with 8th on the grid. We're on board with George Russell, who made it no further than Q2 yesterday. Now in SQ1, he finds himself only 9th, so he's going to go and build again. Hamilton, his teammate, front of the field. It is worth pointing out as well, we do see a variety of different warm-up, how long it takes to get.
Excellent lap, Kev. Currently P1.
We are into deliver immediately territory. Some teams may be looking at Red Bull, may fancy a couple of laps to get themselves into the window. Hamilton is blitzing Verstappen is blitzing Lewis Hamilton starting to the middle part of the lap. Same applies to Charles Leclerc, who is purple, sector 1, sector 2, if you're new to Formula 1. Means he's fastest of anyone in the field so far, as Perez hits the front. Perez, Hamilton, Magnussen, Sargent, Norris, Tsunoda, Albon, Hulkenberg, Gasly and De Vries.
Wind is similar to yesterday.
And it's about to go fastest by just shy of a second. Now, not on the soft, but the medium tyre, our pulse hitter from yesterday, trying to be at the front of the field for the sprint shootout, is P1. And once again, the margin's about 0.2 of a second. Now, let's look at Carlos Sainz, looking for a step forward today, but he's a second off his teammate's effort after the first attempt.
Yeah, Leclerc back to the top, ahead of Verstappen, as it was yesterday. Similar margin to yesterday as well on these opening laps. But the lap times are actually about 3 seconds slower than in Q3 yesterday. So that is where we're at in terms of track and tyres. This was Piastri going straight on at turn 3. He's not giving himself a lot of margin for a spin turn, and he's tried to engage reverse and took a while to get back out of that one. So Piastri's still in the drop zone, and those mediums would have really cooled down as well whilst he was faffing about in the runoff.
Very low grip out there.
Copy.
You know what's going to be fun? They're going to run these tyres all the way through, and the times are just going to drop. This is almost like a wet and dry in qualifying, with the way that we've got a short...
Very low grip out there.
Copy.
Perez complaining of low grip. We've seen Piastri in the runoff area. The times, as I said, 3 seconds slower than the last time Leclerc was in the car at the end of Q3 yesterday. So the track has just gone away, and obviously the medium tyres are taking their time to warm up. Got to be there at the end. You've got to pump in the time, but a yellow flag like there is now can mean that no one can improve once again.
It looks like it's Nick de Vries at turn 3, the corner where he was in the barrier a few metres to the left-hand side yesterday. He's gone deep and he's chosen the escape road crucially today, but he is rejoining the racetrack. But there's a yellow flag there at sector 1, and that is going to compromise everyone. We're seeing quite a lot of cars as well. Albon was disappointed yesterday to find signs in his way. He's picking his way past Ferraris. Nick de Vries, I'm being told, has rejoined.
But that's going to be costly for de Vries. He's at the back of the pack, other than the Alfa Romeos, who haven't got a meaningful time on, and they're actually just starting another flyer now. So they've left it pretty late to get anything on the board, the Alfas. But de Vries, I think, he's going to only have one more flyer left in this session, I think. And he's got a lot of time to find. The man that crashed yesterday is missing some lap time, probably missing a bit of confidence. De Vries is having a bit of a tough time, and Gasly's in the pits, Alex. That's late for Gasly to be in the pits. Also in the drop zone, hasn't done a decent time, way down on mileage.
Yeah, and no sign of activity at the moment. Logan Sargent just did the fastest final sector of the entire session, picking up an amazing tow when he needed it most, as Hamilton now looks to improve. We're finding our rhythm with this session because it's not the usual out and attack and see the lap times immediately, but it will be the usual format at the end when we have the checkered flag waving and the drivers are pushing at the very end of the session. So multiple push laps, multiple times where you can attack, and we've got Charles Leclerc setting the fastest first sector of anyone so far as Hamilton sweeps round the last of the 6 kilometres to conclude his lap, the driver who yesterday managed 5th on the grid.
So Hamilton and Russell need to jump up as well with these ones, because they're starting to languish. Perez is only 10th at the moment and is also improving. There he is in the background of shot. Hamilton goes second, so that's looking now much rosier for him. There are big names tumbling towards the bottom end of this. Sainz is down in 10th, also improving. Perez jumps up to 4th. You've got to be on it at the end. De Vries, I think, is going to be in trouble. Gasly is going to be out because he's still in the pits, and I don't think he'll get anything fired up in time to go. So Gasly's horrible weekend will continue. Who on earth is going to join him? Look at Norris down in 16th.
So Norris down in 16th, having been battling for 4th yesterday. Bottas down there once again. New fastest driver is Max Verstappen, who finds himself on a 42.8. But Sainz, who hasn't had the balance of his teammates so far, looking to try and take a step forward. And you must take a step forward at this stage of the session, because they are finding huge chunks of time and the track rubbering in with every lap that they manage. Sainz to 4th, ahead of Perez, but the 2 Williams there in 6th and 7th tell you there's lots of time to be found for those currently in the drop zone. But you are one mistake from another driver away from being very, very precariously placed. That's the situation for George Russell at the moment. 14th, Norris is improving, he's in the drop zone. But first of all, it's the British driver of George Russell over the line, and he improves to 5th. It's improve or go out at the moment for so many in the field. Norris to 7th.
And these are final laps now as well. I imagine they've had the wick turned up for these qualifying laps. You can't afford to not be deploying everything from the battery. I think they're going to be final laps there for Russell and Norris, but they've both leapt up. The Aston Martins are now big names that are down in 11th and 12th for Fernando Alonso.
This all feels far more frantic than a normal qualifying session, exactly as intended in the sprint shootout. Teams working with their drivers, trying to place the cars where they need them at the optimum moment. Piastri looking over his shoulder. He's in 14th at the moment. No improvement for anyone in the drop zone. We do still have a minute on the...
Are we completely safe?
Yes, we are safe.
Moves up to 13th place, not the time he was looking for.
And you know what, for all the frantic nature, with 50 seconds to go, everyone on their final laps, or about to be on their final laps, we are almost with exactly the same bottom 5 as we had yesterday. If Tsunoda can jump up, he's the star of yesterday that's down at 18th.
Oh, into the wall goes the Williams of Logan Sargent. And that will set the order. We have 30 seconds left, and that is a red flag. Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly and Nick de Vries staring at the exit. There's no time to build and go round again, and Sargent clobbers the wall to make it through to the second part, but he'll take no part in SQ2 because he's hit the wall at turn 15.
And that is bad news for Tsunoda then. Tsunoda was improving, was so quick yesterday in that AlphaTauri, but AlphaTauri at 18th and 20th. De Vries was always going to be in trouble, having found that runoff area, lost a lap. Tsunoda joins him. Terrible day for AlphaTauri after the heroics that he put in yesterday. And both Haas cars get through then. They were disappointed yesterday. Magnussen's done a terrific job with the amount of track time he's had this weekend to be up there in 12th, safely through. And of course Sargent will go through, but just won't be able to take part in the next split.
So Logan Sargent finds the wall. He was just shy of his teammate as well. We'll give you the sector time for Yuki Tsunoda. He did a 36.6 in the first sector. That was quicker than Bottas ahead of him, Hülkenberg ahead of him, Ocon ahead of him, Piastri ahead of him, but he did not get the chance to finish the lap. And after being one of the stars of qualifying yesterday, it's back down to earth through no fault of his own. That is the nature of Baku, though. You always know you're going to get an incident that looks like this in the final moments, or you can always be at risk of an incident like this in the final moments.
Yeah, with 2 red flags yesterday, we've got the first today, and that's why it was important for Norris and Russell.
Okay, that's it for us, P18.
You're kidding me.
Chance they had a lap in hand to jump up the order, because it's not even necessarily your fault. Tsunoda there caught out because of Sargent's fault. Here's the crash, tricky corner into 15. He's got traffic ahead, might have distracted him, but he's just gone in too deep to the left hander. The Ferraris were jumping out of the way. It is tricky when you come over that blind crest, but
I'm in the wall.
Okay, are you okay? Are you okay?
Man, the Ferraris were in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I saw that. Are you okay? Okay, just stop the car next to Marshall Post if you can.
Yeah, look at the traffic ahead of the Ferraris as well. There was going to be plenty more for Sargent had he got round there. I don't think the Ferraris are to blame for that. Actually, the one that was directly ahead, I think it was maybe Sainz, was off the road trying to get out the way of Sargent. But it is just slightly distracting when you come over the crest. You're wondering if they are going to get in the way, even if they don't.
I'm in the wall.
Okay, are you okay? Are you okay?
Man, the Ferraris were in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I saw that. Are you okay? Okay, just stop the car next to Marshall Post if you can.
We were speaking about the drivers working with the teams, getting the car placement sorted. Turn 15 is not a corner where you want to come across any traffic, even if it's behaving exactly as it should in the way that the Ferraris were.
Check a bit my rear right, because I touched the wall exit of safety the last before, but there shouldn't be any problem.
Copy, Joe. We will check rear right.
The surprise on form for this weekend is Yuki Tsunoda in 18th, Gasly and de Vries unable to turn the page on their weekend so far.
That wall that Sargent hits as well, that does just jut out at you. He's hit so many drivers brush it yesterday with front right, rear right, just touching it. It's very easy to do, but clearly Sargent swiping it too hard, and the damage was done, braking too late. Final lap. It looks like he was safely through in 11th, but actually there were plenty of drivers improving, so even though you're sitting 11th right at the end, you know that you've still got to improve, and if you don't, you're going to be vulnerable. That's why he was pressing on so much towards the end of the lap. Can't rest on your laurels, and it's a crash in the end for Logan. Disappointment on his face. I'm impressed with his pace, genuinely. He's right there with Albon. We know how quick Albon can be.
And how much time left? There's only 25 seconds left, so unfortunately that is it. Yeah, so we finished with ourselves in 17 and Joe in 16.
Qualifying. They're mounting up a little bit, the rookie errors, but this is only race 4, and his pace is actually really solid, and that's what he can build on. Still got a sprint to come through from 15th later on, and then the Grand Prix tomorrow. Plenty more action for Sargent to get back into this.
17 laps of the sprint race later on this afternoon, with 8 points available for the winner.
Watch for traffic with Sergeant, he's pushing behind him, clear.
Sergeant crashed.
Copy.
His first pole position as team principal yesterday. Nice moment for him. They'd never tell you that they're sentimental like that, but you've got to be when you're all in scarlet for the first time and a driver like Charles Leclerc produces a lap like that. Carlos Sainz down there in the garage must have had a good pour over the telemetry after qualifying yesterday, after that 8 tenths.
We don't have time in our favour and it's unlikely over, mate, sorry.
Leclerc's lap was a humdinger at the end before that red flag. Same amount of 2 flyers basically for Leclerc and Verstappen, and Leclerc with nearly half a second to the Red Bull on the medium tyres. Very, very impressive.
This is going to be an upset Sonoda.
No!
Charge
Oh,
up.
good up.
Okay, that's it for us, P18.
You're kidding me.
Red flag.
No!
Red flag. Charge up.
Oh, good up.
Okay, that's it for us, P18.
You're kidding me.
And Norris don't have soft tyres left, so if they made SQ3, they would be stuck in 9th and 10th, but still a lot better than 18th, needless to say. So Yuki frustrated. Someone else's mistake can ruin your day.
And that's a driver who knows how well AlphaTauri go around this circuit traditionally. They've been on the podium here a couple of years ago. Pierre Gasly was scoring 5th place here last year in that team's colours, and Yuki Tsunoda with a fine 8th place on the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix. So a chance for him then, but that was the shout of a driver who knows that this is one of their best tracks of the season, and the opportunity has fallen away. As you say, though, highest place on the sprint grid of 9th was available to Tsunoda after taking that option to run brand new soft tyres in the traditional qualifying session, take the benefit there and deal with the consequences today. As Logan Sargent looks on, there's no service road here, so Nick de Vries yesterday was saying that he had to watch qualifying with the rest of us before he was able to get a lift back to the track. It's a beautiful walk down there if Logan fancies it. At the moment, he's just collecting his thoughts.
It's long though, isn't it? It's down at the final corner, but it's a long way up to the main straight.
Lovely gardens down there, the tannoy blaring with the track commentary, and through you go. Don't imagine he's in the mood for a lovely coffee down there.
It's the city of wind, nice breeze.
Yeah.
A
lovely
sea breeze
on a Saturday morning with a brand new format.
Things could be worse, couldn't they?
Things could be far worse. In general, Williams more competitive at different types of circuit across the season. They do seem to have last year, the last proper update they brought to the car was the British Grand Prix. If you're new to the sport, that was in July. That's in the middle of the season. And then budget reasons, I should say. They weren't quite on the cap. Budget reasons meant they couldn't bring any more updates. But they learned and they applied that learning. And the car that they've got, fundamental car they've got for this year, is very strong compared to last. Okay, so there is a massive queue at the end of the pit lane, and you might go, well, are we ready to get on with it? We're not. It's a 3-minute wait.
This is fun. This is really good. That SQ1 was hectic, wasn't it?
It was hectic.
Everyone out on the green, just gunning it through to the red at the end.
Man, they literally just sat in the middle of turn 15.
Because they need to be on track straight away. 10-minute SQ2 session, and it's going to be the same again. Get on it from the first lap, stay on track until the end, and make sure you're in the top 10 for this next part. And the tyres, it's going to be the same story. They're going to get better and better probably through the session. Quite enjoy the qualifyings on the mediums. On a track like this.
I also like the multiple laps. As you compared it earlier on to like a drying track when you just have to run lap after lap after lap. I've got to say, yesterday across the board, both Formula 2 and Formula 1, a superb day of qualifying. Formula 2, of course, do tend to run multiple laps at the end far more. 11 improvements in the top 15 in the final seconds of Formula 2. A masterful lap from Charles Leclerc. Given the context of the season, given the expectation that Red Bull have built a monster so impressive that it could well be topping basically every session you look at, and yet Formula 1 races are not decided on paper, they are decided on track, and we have seen a spectacle on these streets so far. We're in for more. SQ2 still on the medium tyre. Multiple laps required, but we're going to chuck a couple of minutes off the clock. We have 10 minutes to decide who goes through into SQ3 and the top 10 shootout. We're going to lose 5 cars once again. It's a remix of the format, but it's the same underlying type of session.
There's a trade-off going on at the moment. The drivers that have got their track position, they've gone and queued up, are on the medium tyres, they want to get out there straight away and get as many laps in as they can. Now, their tyres are now cooling, whilst the other drivers that are in the garage, we saw Lando Norris, the 2 Ferraris, not trying to join the queue. They can keep the tyres in the blankets, keep them nice and toasty, and they should have better grip when we do get green, but they'll have less time to use that grip. We've seen them, people even losing a minute whilst the other drivers filter out.
Oh, I have never seen that. I have never seen in the 20 plus years I've been watching this.
So what happens now? Are we allowed to join, push in, or?
Well, for me,
if they are listening to this, it's actually a disadvantage then to be where we are in the pit lane.
So we left the garage the same time that the second house arrived, so we should be behind the second house.
Tried to throw it clear of the car, and then that's why he saw that it was lodged as he was coming out of the pit lane, and had a couple of minutes.
So the program's going to be very tight in this session. So if anyone's delaying you, just get past them. Get past them.
So it says 9 minutes on the left-hand side of your timing graphic, but in reality, you really do want the security of a good early banker here because of the nature that we've seen. And of course, we're far quicker to the limit with this format, which means the chance of yellows and reds being waved by the marshals far higher.
You don't want to be in the drop zone in the final runs. We've just seen exactly why. Bizarrely, yesterday, the red flags actually came earlier in Q1 with De Vries and Gasly. The end of the sessions were remarkably clean, but in the previous year's qualifyings here, the amount of times you get at least a yellow flag on the final laps as everyone goes gung-ho for the flag with one final hurrah, someone will overcook it on the brakes and end up in a runoff area, or bring out a red flag as Sargent just did. And so you don't want to be in the doghouse for the last runs. You want to be clear if you possibly can, especially if you're one of the pole contenders for today, your Ferraris or Red Bulls.
That track dominance graphic is usually a mixture of red and blue. I did for a second say, have they done that correctly? Is that right? But it does appear to say that on the last run, Charles Leclerc was dominant in all aspects of the track.
There was a red flag for a minute, as it all just went red on the right-hand side. That's just how good Leclerc's lap in SQ1 was there. Half a second nearly, quicker than anyone else.
Verstappen will be back, but so will this man on the podium here more than any other venue in his Formula One career, and that's not just with teams like Red Bull fighting at the front. He's had some fantastic, heroic, giant-killing moments. Same when he was in a Force India going past Sebastian Vettel in a peak Ferrari, fighting his way to the podium after Vettel had had that lockup. That is one of Perez's finest stints in a Grand Prix, to fight his way through there. Really, really impressive stuff around here. A track that he's just naturally all...
You think there's going to be bunching in the 16?
It's Verstappen's going, then Hamilton. It's not going to bunch up much. Hamilton's going, so there's just Russell and Mag to go. Russell's going, so you have an 8-second gap to Kevin. You're good. Remember, mode push, mode push.
Great in Formula One, but I love the thrill of street circuits, getting right up to the barriers. It's just a real adrenaline buzz, threading it between the walls. That and the fast corners of Silverstone were tracks I really relished coming to, and of course, Silverstone was my home race as well.
Perez's last 4 wins have all come on street circuits. Baku, Monaco, Marino Bay, and most recently this year in Jeddah. Yellow flag is out in the second part of the circuit. Hulkenberg at turn 7 might be the reason why. He looks like he is stranded there. Very narrow, turn 7, and it does appear to be Hulkenberg who's stationary. We're finishing Perez's lap, though, on screen, benchmark for everyone is a 1:42.9. Verstappen faster than that effort. Sector 1, Sector 2, he's about to complete Sector 3. Hulkenberg's reversed, he's back in the mix, and Verstappen beats that time with a 1:42.4. Hamilton slotting in to P3. Here's his teammate George Russell, and again, just like yesterday, behind his teammate, not with the balance that he had certainly last time out in Australia when he was on the front row.
For plenty of those drivers further back now, there's going to be a big gap because of the yellow flag for this man, Nico Hulkenberg, down at turn 7. Really tight right-hander that we're coming into, but I imagine Nico's going to bail out to the left. Oh, big lock-up, and that could be a flat-spotted set of tyres as well for Hulkenberg. He's not going to have time to do anything about it, so he's just got to... He's obviously engaged reverse and got going again, but you can see the flat spot there. Hulkenberg's going to be in trouble. One lock-up like that, we see so many around this circuit where drivers can bail out into runoff areas. You do it today in this spring qualifying, then you're on the back foot. De Vries had it.
Lots of understeer in the mid-sector.
A couple of flying laps, but flat-spotted tyres to get himself into the top 10.
Charles Leclerc into second place, 0.4 of a second in arrears to Max Verstappen's time. Carlos Sainz behind the second Red Bull of Sergio Perez, and immediately bailing out of the way. Another lock-up for the Haas moving through turn number 1. That was Hulkenberg again with a lock-up.
That's the problem with the flat spot. It's easy to lock them up again when you end up, you're hitting the brakes, your tyres are around until you hit that part that is flattened, and therefore it's easier just to catch that and repeat your lock-up on exactly the same spot, which will only make it worse. So that's the problem that Hulkenberg has got, and with this shortened session, he's not changing tyres, so he's really up against it. And of course we don't have Sargent in this as well, so there's only 4 drivers going out. Hulkenberg is going to do well to be not one of those 4, I think.
4 minutes to go. No representative times from Alonso, Stroll, the man you're looking at the moment, Lando Norris, Alex Albon, Oscar Piastri, and you've seen the reason why for Nico Hulkenberg.
I tell you what, a red flag or anything now, a yellow flag, and it's time for people to just get laps in, isn't it? They've been out on circuit. Alonso and Stroll are out there improving in the middle sector, close to pumping one in. Norris is in the drop zone now with only 4 minutes to go, and he's flying actually on this lap, so should jump right up the order as well. It really goes quickly, these sessions.
It is working exactly as intended. In SQ2, Lando Norris has done the hard part of the lap. He's into the final time that he will deploy the DRS, and he's across the line to move up to 6th place ahead of George Russell. Be a good toe for Oscar Piastri as well. That was Alonso over the line, but without, and he was on a push lap. I don't think he had the DRS open. We'll check that. So Norris goes into 7th, Albon is into 8th, 9th for Piastri. Alonso went up to 4th. There's definitely DRS open for Lance Stroll, and Stroll goes to 8th position.
Drops Russell down to 11th, where he qualified yesterday. We've almost got exactly the same top 10 as we had yesterday now as well. If you swap Albon out and put in Tsunoda, we have somehow managed to get exactly the same top 10, but there's one more flyer to go for everyone out there. Russell is on his flyer right now in 11th place. Hulkenberg has actually managed to do a somewhat sensible time. He's on a slow lap and will go again. His teammate, Kevin Magnussen, is on a push lap on this one.
Okay, we're continuing to push on. Yellow flag in Sector 1. Couple of clicks round, and not immediately obvious what's happened there, so I think that only a moment, maybe a deep moment in a recovery, so the place where that's most likely is turn 1. George Russell now trying to avoid the fates in SQ2 that he had in normal Q2, and he is pushing on. The driver at risk is Oscar Piastri, trying to get back into the top 10. Russell not with the feel that he'd want around here. A winner here before in his career. Formula 2, one of 7 wins in his championship winning season back in 2018. Improvement for Piastri. Magnussen over the line in 12th position. It's Ocon pushing on. The driver at risk is Alex Albon. 2 minutes to go.
That could well be it for Magnussen and for Russell. They'll have to do a very quick slow lap now to get through and start a flyer before it goes to checker flag in 1:40. That's the pace of a flying lap, but of course with recharge on, cooling the tyres a little bit, or at least navigating the circuit, even if they don't want to cool the tyres, particularly on the mediums, it's going to cost them some lap time, so they may or may not squeeze in one
There's no one behind Hamilton, so just get out his way. Make sure you're not getting in his way at all.
Max Verstappen, and he's in the part of the racetrack where it really does appear that the Red Bull has an enormous advantage at top speed. Hearing that the yellow flag could be for Carlos Sainz. Sainz, who finds himself in 5th at the moment, has completed his teammate's lap. Over the line goes Charles Leclerc, just behind the benchmark set by Verstappen.
Sainz is going again, so that was at turn 15 where Sargent hit the wall, and I don't think Carlos there impeded anyone else's.
Okay, recharge on, and we'll be boxing now. That's P11 at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I lost 10 and a half in the straight now.
Yeah, I saw that jump here. I'm not sure why that was, unfortunately.
Fancy turning in with the peril of the wall on the outside.
Always worth bailing out instead of risking it like we've seen earlier on in this session. At turn 15, the rookie driver Logan Sargent in the wall. In the drop zone at the moment, Ocon, Piastri, Magnussen and Hulkenberg. We already know that Sargent can't take part in this session, and the checkered flag is out in a few moments' time. Drivers on a fast lap, able to complete them.
So Ocon is out, he's not on a lap, and he won't start another one. Piastri is on a flying lap. Magnussen has come into the pit, so that was his final attempt, and it's Hulkenberg. So it's Piastri and Hulkenberg are the two that may jump up at the risk then of Stroll and Albon, but they're both pushing as well.
Okay, it's Lando Norris in 8th position, trying to complete things, trying to get himself further up the order. Alonso, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, and then the driver you're looking at the moment. Hulkenberg is in touch, but remember how quick that Williams is in a straight line. Hamilton has gone over the line. He will finish his session in 5th. Improvements out there for plenty of drivers, though, and it's Norris who comes over the line, and he does not improve overall. Now, let's see. This is important for Hulkenberg. Currently 14th. He gets to 11th, but he's not going through. Albon, can he take another step forward? He can, up to 7th position. What about Oscar Piastri? Oscar Piastri finds P10, but Stroll has a lap behind. He has a mighty tow from his teammate as well. And if the rest of the lap is good, and it looks very good for Stroll, he will knock Piastri out, and he does so. Good teamwork, Aston Martin. It's Stroll in 7th, Albon in 8th, Russell 9th. The driver at risk is Norris, but there's no one behind who can drop him out. Oscar Piastri eliminated by 0.03 of a second. Piastri, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Magnussen and Sargent, who crashed in SQ1, dropping out of SQ2.
Russell is safely through, and he's going to complete this lap anyway, whilst he can. Extended gap between the two sessions, so he should be able to get back and will be in it for SQ3 later, but it is Piastri who didn't make it through. Stroll did. Great teamwork from Aston Martin there. That wasn't a coincidence that they came through together, and Alonso was dragging his teammate all the way before peeling into the pits. Stroll's DRS still didn't open, so the Aston Martin DRS issues from yesterday have not cleared themselves, and they're slow on the straight line as a result. So Fernando helping out his teammate just to elevate him, and it was only 700ths, even just about 700ths.
Yeah.
Stroll had over Piastri. Without that slipstream, he's gone. So great work then from Aston Martin to sync their drivers and get Alonso towing Lance Stroll into SQ3.
The two Haas drivers dropping out, Piastri missing out.
Okay, Lando, we are boxes lap, currently P8, still some cars to finish. And Lando, we are through.
But 0.03 of a second that Oscar Piastri finds himself behind Norris. Lance Stroll's lap was 1,000th of a second quicker than Albon.
Oscar, your P11, Fernando towed Stroll, and he jumped us at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys.
You know what's a shame for McLaren is that they've got the wrong driver.
Oscar, your P11, Fernando towed Stroll, and he jumped us at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Always had to be resourceful like that, and even though they've got the technical problem, they found a way.
Yeah, good work there from Fernando and their side of the garage, just to. Surely that wasn't chance that they stumbled across each other at that point, with Stroll in the drop zone and Alonso safely through, not requiring a final lap.
We are good.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, you're so good job, everyone.
So the reason why the wrong McLaren is through is because Norris has no tyres to participate in this next part of qualifying. Piastri would have done, but Lando getting into Q3 yesterday used everything that he had on softs, and now that's what we move to for this final part of sprint shootout.
It is.
I'll get it right in the end.
It's a new day. It's a new format. It has felt relentless so far in the best possible way. SQ3 to set the order for the sprint race later on, and the sprint shootout is going to conclude. We look set for another fantastic battle between Verstappen and Leclerc. Perez not loving life as much on the medium tyres. The good news for him is that he can get rid of them now. If you have a brand new set of soft tyres, it is time to bolt them to the car. That's mandated in the new rules for this session, and the weight at...
But the tyres were dropping away from me at the end of this lap. Vibrations disappeared. Must have been the tyre.
Okay, whilst we're queuing at the end, we have a moment to send it to the studio where Sam Collins and Alex Brundle are standing by to review what we've just seen.
Well, Alex, this is actually really interesting because we know why Aston Martin are having all of their problems. They introduced this, a brand new rear wing for this Grand Prix, and you can see it's a pretty high wing element, huge amount of load at very high speed going through. And in SQ1, we saw this happening. Alex, you've got DRS working on one car but not the other, then swapping round. It seems to be working on one car at some points and on the other car at other points. That's going to be really mucking up the drivers as they go down this very high-speed circuit and then coming to the corners. I mean, what are they going to be finding?
A brilliant piece of strategy at the end to actually use the toe to move the cars through it and get a better qualifying time. But there are so many difficulties for the drivers here. Not only do you have a DRS problem, but you have intermittent arrival speeds as a result of your DRS problem.
So, Max, just one thing. With this waiting at the end of the pit lane, we'd like you to switch recharge off when you open the lap around turn 17. So you go through 16, come through the right-hand kick, and then switch recharge off.
Okay.
Thanks.
Car positioning and quick thinking from the Aston Martin pit wall, because in the first time in SQ1 you saw the two cars were too far apart to get a realistic tow going on, but that aerodynamic, that car without the DRS punching, well, car with the DRS punching a hole in the air for the car that's got a lot of drag with that working DRS system, the drag reduction system working on one car, and they're using both their cars to tow them through. Frantic work going on in the Aston Martin garage to get both cars working properly, but I don't think they're going to manage it properly. So guys, back to you in commentary, but this is looking really challenging for Aston Martin.
Lovely detail. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Alex. We have 10 seconds before we are building up for SQ3, and we have taken another 2 minutes off the clock. We are down to 8 minutes to set the grid for the 17-lap sprint later on today.
Green light goes now. How early did those Red Bulls get down there?
I know.
Nearly 4 minutes.
They could watch the analysis on the big screen.
Yeah, and interestingly, they will probably do a little bit of that in this one as well, a bit of slipstreaming, not quite to the extent of Aston Martin, with drivers kind of out of sync on fast laps and slow laps. The Red Bulls of Verstappen and Perez go out line astern and will surely be on the same run plan here. Interestingly, Perez towed Verstappen around a little bit yesterday. He will do the same again today. I wondered this morning if they would swap that round. Being in surely a Red Bull driver's total fight at some point this year, I wondered if one day Verstappen gets it, then on a sprint day around Baku, where the slipstream could be important, if they might swap that, but they have not.
We've seen that rear its head in the past, haven't we, with Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen in Austria, I believe it was. Ricciardo is traditionally, it swaps race to race. That is traditionally the way that the team does it. But he wanted runs split up. It is traditionally one driver one week and another driver another. I tell you what, I found really interesting about Sergio Perez's post-qualifying comments, isn't it? He immediately mentioned the 8 points for winning the sprint. He knows that every point is vital when you're trying to beat Max Verstappen to a world championship.
It really is. The Grand Prix tomorrow is obviously the main focus for everyone still. they start second and third, and you wouldn't rule either of them out from winning that Grand Prix with the straight line speed that Red Bull have. But if you can get the extra points here, we saw them fight it out for a fastest lap, and a little bit of beef between the Red Bulls in Saudi when Max got it on the final lap. They know that the points are crucial, even just it's so early on in the championship still, but for momentum and galvanising a team and making sure that everyone doesn't flood to the Verstappen championship train, really, that could well happen given how good Max is and his form of the last couple of years. Perez needs everything he can to keep his side of the garage enthused, motivated to think that they can still be champion.
Interesting side of the psychology. We are driver's eye view with Max Verstappen, the two-time world champion. Little bit of a correction there. Those minor corrections yesterday allowing Charles Leclerc the chance to steal in and take his first pole of the season. And now we are looking for our first P1 driver in the sprint shootout. Verstappen going nicely at the moment. How's it looking, Joe?
So far, so good. There's a lot of little corrections at the wheel with Max. There we go. There's another one coming out of.
And we have wind phase 5, same intensity.
It's gone straight out. It's a little bit earlier on in the day, cooler temperatures, and they're not firing up quite as well as the tyres were in yesterday's qualifying when they went through the usual run plan and could really fine-tune the cars as well. So we'll probably see times dropping slightly as well through even the last 5 minutes of this.
Feels like it's flown by this session exactly as intended. It's already frenetic enough in normal qualifying, but the remix to the format, just 44 minutes across the board. And now we have Verstappen going nicely in the first sector. We have Perez going brilliantly in the second part of the track. And now bringing it to the line. Very, very strong middle sector for Perez. It's Verstappen to lay the benchmark down. Perez, rather, to lay the benchmark down. And now, can Verstappen respond as he has the DRS open? It would be a mighty effort at the end to do so. He can't. And it's Perez, the lead Red Bull, by 2.5 tenths of a second.
Perez's middle sector was stunning on that lap. Verstappen was quicker in the first and third, but Checo had a good 4 tenths to his teammate in the middle part. What about Leclerc then? Leclerc was so strong in the middle sector yesterday. That's where he got pole position, and he's quick again on this one. First flying lap of SQ3, and Leclerc is going to be gunning for Checo now. Flat out all the way to the line. Can he do it? It's very close through 2 sectors.
Over a flying lap around this racetrack, Charles Leclerc is absolute magic, and he's looking to try and take another P1 slot in a time.
I'm losing the rears already into turn 7.
To the line, he finds the time to go to the front of the field. The Monegasque driver has done it once again without the help of a tow. 3 minutes and 21 seconds to go. It's Leclerc, now Perez alongside him for the sprint later on as it stands, and Verstappen in third place, the position where he started 1 year ago on his way to winning the Grand Prix. But this is just to set the order for the sprint.
Yeah, I lost all the rear in the middle sector. Yeah, I lost all the rear in the middle sector.
Yeah, we saw that.
Sector. The first and third, he might have taken just a distant tow from Checo to help him out as well. The middle sector, the rear looked quite loose. When we jumped on board with Max, it looked like he didn't quite have the grip. There's a little bit of drift at the apex that's slithering wide towards the wall, but just catching it with some nice opposite lock there. Have a little breather. 2.5 minutes left on the clock, and we've got one more flyer for everyone now. I like this format.
What happened? Has Verstappen put a lap in, or is he preparing for the last lap?
Yes, Verstappen is P3, 42.1 for Verstappen. We believe he did a mistake in sector 2.
The 2-minute warning, and the last attacking laps to set the order for the sprint later on.
You see, even Leclerc had his visor up, just trying to get a little bit of clear the vision, get a bit of air into the helmet, and then our provisional P1 man will go again. Look, this is a bit of a bunch up down towards turn 15. Hamilton behind Perez. They all want a slipstream. They all fancy a bit of a slipstream behind Checo. Where is Max in all of this then? Max is still behind as well. So there we go. Everyone wanting a tow, and the Red Bulls will not be working together. There's Perez, and then a line of rival cars wanting to pick up a slipstream.
So Aston Martin still hampered by that DRS issue. Norris can't take part in the session due to the fact he's got no soft tyres left, and you must run a new soft tyre. And so we're looking further up to see whether Albon can get in touch with Russell. Hamilton looks like he's going to be stuck in P5, and can Sainz get closer to those ahead? Who will be at the front of the field between the three that we saw? First of all, to lay down an attempt to try and take a step forward is Sergio Perez, and Hamilton has positioned the car nicely behind him. Mercedes really need a bit of help with their top speed. That's not a problem for the power unit, sending this car down to turn 3.
Quite a big gap between Perez and Verstappen.
So there's too much messing around, Fernando. We obviously need a lap.
And Leclerc is the car just behind Max as well. So Leclerc is probably taking a small tow from Verstappen. Sainz is behind Leclerc, and Perez is all out on his own as the first man to try and break the tow for everyone else behind, who is kind of line astern. Hamilton about 3 seconds back. Then there's Albon there in the Williams, Alonso and Russell, before you look off the track, basically back down towards Verstappen and Leclerc. Perez's first sector, not great.
Not what he needed. Not.
The speed are a bit stupid.
Working the wheel, you can hear it with the throttle. They're working the wheel at the Red Bull on these laps. They're not generating the tyre temperature that they might. Won't be a problem for the race, but over one lap, you can see that Perez is having to dance that car around.
Verstappen's first sector not good either. 2/10 off Leclerc. Perez making some time now in the middle, fastest middle of anyone. Verstappen's first sector not good. There's a yellow.
Oh, Charles Leclerc into the barrier, chasing another P1, and he finds the wall instead. Charles Leclerc currently P1, but we know the straight line speed for Sergio Perez is absolutely enormous. He's got the fastest middle sector. Checkered flag out for Perez, who comes over the line, but he can't find an answer. Hamilton is not able to improve. It's still a yellow flag. And can Verstappen find a way past?
Yeah, Verstappen was ahead of Leclerc, crucially, so he still can keep his foot in here, slithering out of the final corner, can run it to the line. He's personal best in the middle sector, but he's still behind the top two.
Leclerc's in the barrier, but he's still got a chance of hanging on to that position. Verstappen needed a mighty exit from 16 all the way along to the line now. Let's see if he can move up to the front row at least for the sprint. Can he displace Charles Leclerc? No, he improves his time, but he remains in third. And what an extraordinary situation we have here. The man who was in the barriers is the man at the top of the timing page. Charles Leclerc gets the job done in the sprint shootout, and it's always dramatic with this man in Baku.
Yeah, we've had it before, haven't we, where Leclerc's ended.
There might be some debris that 5-6 Leclerc went into the wall there.
To go, there can be no doubt about this one. He didn't impede anyone else apart from his teammate. Carlos Sainz couldn't improve with Leclerc finding the wall at turn 5. He's down to 5th in the end, with Russell doing a great job up in 4th. And it was an oversteer as he turned in, lost the grip. The grip level's just not there today. He's a second and a half off what he did on the same tyres in yesterday's qualifying.
Sorry for Carlos.
And in trying to push and make up that bit
of... sorry for Carlos.
Got a bit too greedy and had the oversteer, found the wall, and he knew the situation. He could see the Red Bulls ahead. He knew his teammate was behind, and Carlos was the only driver that lost out. With Charles hitting the barriers there, and he slips down to 5th.
What an extraordinary sight on a thoroughly entertaining weekend for Charles Leclerc. He might not have a front wing.
So P1.
Good job.
So P1.
Good job. Good job, guys. I think the tires were gone anyway on the second lap, but yeah, good job.
Trying to do the same crash.